Medicaid will take your inheritance if your parents are using it and they're not protecting their assets from creditors, which would be Medicaid in this case. And so what happens is your parents rack up the assistance from Medicaid and they pass away. If they have assets in their personal name, then Medicaid comes after the assets in their estate during the probate process and can wipe out your entire inheritance before they can distribute it out to you. And so in this video, we're going to talk about what the probate process looks like so you can pay back Medicaid, and then we're going to talk about how to set up asset protections so you can avoid Medicaid taking your inheritance from your parents. So in terms of the probate process, when you pass away, you will grab your parents' death certificate, their original will, and fill out a petition for probate. You will file those 3 documents at the probate courts in the county where they live. The probate courts will open up the probate process and give you the letters of testamentary, which will appoint you as the executor of the estate and give you the authority to manage the assets inside the estate. At this point, you have to publicly notify creditors that they have passed away. Generally, you're going to do a public notification in the local newspaper. As an example, in Georgia, you do a notification once a week for a 4-week period. The courts will help you with this process. Then you also have to open up an estate bank account. Then you'll go to their financial institutions for anything like checking, savings, retirement, investment, insurance accounts. Give them the death certificate and your letters of testamentary, and then they will distribute that money out to the estate bank account. In this case, Medicaid becomes a creditor of your estate. Even though it's assistance that they gave your parents, it turns into debt when they pass away and their assets are going through the probate process. And then you'll have to use the money or the assets inside the estate to pay off the debts that you owe to Medicaid. And so the way that you do this is a couple different ways depending on the assets that you have. The first set of assets you're going to use is liquid assets, which would be the money in the estate bank account. So you'll take the money out of the estate bank account and pay off any debts that you owe to Medicaid. If there's not enough money inside the estate bank account, you then have to move on to physical assets, which would be things like their home. So if you're using the home to pay off the debts that you owe to Medicaid, then you have to sell that home, take the proceeds from the sale of that home, and use that money to pay off the debts that you owe to Medicaid. And so what the process for selling the home in the probate process is going to look like is you list that property for sale, and then someone makes an offer that you are agreeable with. You will send the purchase agreement and your letters of testamentary to the closing company or the title company, and they will open up escrow, and then at the closing table you will sign as the executor of the estate. They will distribute the proceeds from that sale into the estate bank account, and then you will use that money to pay off the debts that you owe to Medicaid. Now if there's any money left over, then you will distribute the remaining money out to the beneficiaries per the instructions in that will. If there is not a will, you would distribute that money out per the intestate laws. Now, if there's not enough liquid or physical assets inside the estate to pay off all the debts that you owe to Medicaid, it will literally wipe out all the inheritance that you would have gotten before they can distribute that money out to you. Then once you're done paying off debts and distributing money out to the beneficiaries, you have to do the final accounting. The final accounting is going to be how you use the money inside the estate to pay off expenses for the property, what debts you paid out to creditors, and then what distributions you made out to the beneficiaries. You'll take that final accounting and submit it to the probate courts along with the petition to discharge you as the executor of the estate. The probate courts will then approve of everything and close out the probate process, and you will be done. Now let's talk about how you can protect your assets from Medicaid. You can put your assets inside of an irrevocable trust. This will give you asset protection from creditors, which would be Medicaid in this case. The reason it gives you asset protection is because you're fully separating those assets from you as an individual. You cannot be the trustee, you cannot be the beneficiary, meaning you have no control or benefits over the property inside of the irrevocable trust. You are also no longer filing those assets on your personal tax return. You're filing them on the trust tax return. Therefore, they have been fully separated from your estate, and that's what gives you the asset protection from creditors, in this case Medicaid, coming after your assets inside of the irrevocable trust. Now, you want to make sure that you're setting up your irrevocable trust and putting your assets into the irrevocable trust 5 years before you apply for Medicaid. The 5-year is accounting for the look-back period for Medicaid. Every state has different look-back periods, so it might be 5 years, it might be 7, it might be 10 years, depending on the state that you live in. To qualify for Medicaid, you have 2 different things that you need to do. You need to reduce your monthly income down to a certain amount, and you need to reduce the value of your assets down to a certain amount. So these are the income and assets in your personal name. And so each state has different income and asset requirements, so you have to look that up for yourself. Now, what you're going to do is put the assets inside the irrevocable trust, so that reduces your asset value that's in your personal name, and any income generated from the assets inside of that trust will no longer be going out to you as an individual. Therefore, you have reduced the income generated from your assets. If you want help setting any of this up, click the link in the bio, fill out the form, and schedule a time to talk to someone on our team.